Chapter 6. The next morning, after having breakfast together, Ezra left for his office in Pleasanton and Judith headed straight to her mother's house in Fremont. She was glad to see Lucian's Jeep parked out front. That way she didn't have to repeat everything she planned to say to them. The two of them apologized profusely to Judith before she could get all the way inside the house. Evelyn and Lucian talked over each other trying to explain and defend their actions. Stop, Judith yelled. Nothing you say will excuse what you did, Mama. Do you know how humiliating that was? I brought you to meet the man I love and you acted a complete damn fool in front of him and his family. But Edmund, it's not about him, Mama, she snapped. You don't think I was pissed off when she came waltzing up in there with him? Judith asked, pointing at Lucian. I was mad as hell, but I still feel like that was between us. Everybody didn't need to know how much we can't stand Edmund. And if you weren't so busy cussing and talking all crazy, you would have realized that Ezra's family saw through Edmund. They would have sided with you, but you acted so ridiculous that it made them as uncomfortable around you as they were around him, she exaggerated. I hate to say this, but I regret inviting you to come. Both of you. Look now, girl, you better remember who you talking to, Evelyn cautioned. I'm not your child. I'm a grown-ass woman and I'll be damned if I'm gonna stand here and get chastised by the girl I raised. So you better check yourself. I don't care how old you get, you'll always be my child and you better stay in a child's place. So you hear me? Whatever, Mommy. I don't know why I even bothered coming over here. Judith huffed as she headed towards the front door. You don't ever listen. What do you want from me, Judith? I want you to understand how I feel and give a damn that you humiliated me in front of someone special to me. I want you to be sorry for it instead of acting like it's everybody's fault but yours. I am sorry, girl, Evelyn shouted before she burst into tears. I am. Judith and Lucian were stunned. Evelyn wasn't much for showing emotions, aside from anger, so when she cried it was because something really hurt her. And behaving the way she had and knowing she hurt and humiliated her daughter was enough to break Evelyn down. I'm sorry, Maddie. I know I ruined the dinner and I'm so sorry. I don't know why I still let your father get to me like that. I'm so embarrassed. Evelyn embraced her daughter and apologized again. Judith was still mad, but she appreciated her mother taking responsibility for once and acknowledging how she felt. She returned her mother's embrace and promised to call her later. Soon after, Evelyn left for her job as a loan officer at Bank of America. Judith was about to head home when Lucian asked to speak to her. Listen, Mad, you were right. I am jealous of what you and Ezra have. He's a good man and I can see how much he really loves you. But I swear to you I didn't bring Daddy to the dinner to ruin what you have with Ezra. I would never try to hurt you like that, Lucian said, as tears began to fall down her cheek. I just didn't know what to do. Daddy was crying and talking about how nobody loves him and that he'd be better off dead. Then he accused me of being ashamed of him and his MS, the reason I wasn't going to take him to Ezra's house with me. I felt bad and guilty and overwhelmed. It's expensive taking care of Daddy by myself. The nurse, doctor visits, medications, all of it. I'd been working like crazy just to cover all the costs. And on top of that there have been a couple of break-ins around the neighborhood, so I'm having a new security system installed to be sure Daddy's safe when I'm not there, Lucian said, wiping tears from her face. I'm so stressed, Judith. I need help but you and Mama hate Daddy, so that leaves the responsibility of his care on my shoulders. Yesterday I honestly just needed a break. I thought if he had somebody else to whine and complain to that I wouldn't have to hear it for at least a few hours. I'm tired, mad, and apparently stupid too for falling for all that junk Daddy said about wanting to make things right with you. It seems that all he wanted to do was mess with Mama and have her all upset. Look, Lucian, I feel bad that you feel bad, but Mama and I aren't making his care your responsibility. You're choosing for it to be and I don't think you should. But that's your choice, so you can't get mad at us for not paying for Edmund's care. I told you from the get-go I wouldn't be contributing shit, and the fact that you're stressed out doesn't change that. I'm sorry if that hurts your feelings, but I'm just being honest with you. He's a grown man who's very capable of getting what he wants, so let him figure out where to live and how to get to the doctor and whatever else he needs. It's funny how he's only helpless when you're around to do everything for him. But that's on you, Lucian. I can't make you kick him to the curb just like you can't make me accept him. Well, I guess this is another one of those moments where we have to agree to disagree. But there is something else I need to talk to you about. What's that? Have you told Ezra? Judith rolled her eyes. There's nothing to tell. The past is called the past for a reason, Lucian. What's done is done. Yeah, that's what I thought too, and then I got a text from the man I love telling me he could never marry a woman like me. It's not the same thing, Lucian Bell. Well, not exactly, Judith corrected when her sister looked at her like she was insane. Learn from my mistake, Mad. Please. Ezra trusted you with whatever his secrets are and you need to trust him with yours. Judith knew Lucian was right, but she couldn't do it. She wouldn't do it. Judith didn't see any reason to risk her future by talking about things that happened in her past. On Monday, May 2nd, Judith spent the day preparing for a very special, romantic evening with Ezra. She couldn't believe how nervous she felt, as if it were their first date. Everything had to be perfect, from the food to the music to the outfit she was planning to wear. Judith wanted to show Ezra what she felt for him in her heart. She loved him and sincerely hoped they had a long future together. A few minutes before 5 o'clock that evening, Ezra rang the doorbell. He had a bouquet of colorful gerbera daisies, Judith's favorites, and she smiled from ear to ear. It always amazed her how much he paid attention to details and remembered everything she said. Ezra always made her feel loved. They hugged and kissed at the door before Judith ushered him inside and offered him a seat on the couch. Ezra smiled as he took in the quaint living room space. The plush, sienna-colored sofa, love seat, ottoman, and oversized chair looked comfortable and inviting. Everything about the room, from the area rug and coffee table to the large entertainment unit and colorful wall masks, represented a part of Judith's personality. Ezra was excited to see the rest of the house and didn't understand her surprise at his request for a tour. "It's just with that fabulous estate you have, I can't imagine anything in my little house being of interest to you. Baby doll, why do you say things like that? This is your home. It represents you and I love you, so of course I want to see everything in it. The same way you said my house told you a lot about me, yours does the same for you. Take for instance the fact that you have all of these beautiful pieces of art on the walls but not one photograph. And I know you love pictures and you're a very sentimental person, so I imagine they're around here somewhere. But you not having them out for everyone to see means you're private and only share those things with people who gain your trust." "Humph," Judith grunted, impressed with his observation. She never thought of it that way, but hearing Ezra say it made sense to her. "So let me show you the rest of the house." She smiled and led him upstairs to the bright, sunny guest room. Then Judith took him to her bedroom. "Aha, see, here are those pictures I was looking for." Ezra smiled as he walked over to her antique wooden dresser. It was covered with gold-framed photographs. "You're such a beautiful woman, baby doll," he said after looking at each of her pictures. Then Ezra took in the entire room. All of the furniture in Judith's bedroom was antique wood. Her king-size sleigh bed, the tall chest of drawers, the dresser with mirror, nightstands, and the base of her chaise lounge transported Ezra to another era. The color scheme of peach, cream, and gold gave the room a brightness and freshness that was inviting and calming. The same could be said of Judith's master bathroom. "I feel at ease in here," Ezra said, as he ran his hand along her peach comforter. "Do you know what I mean? It's so serene and calming." "Thank you," Judith smiled sweetly. "It wasn't always this way, though. I used to have a TV in here and I brought my work and food and all kinds of junk with me. I couldn't figure out why I had such a hard time sleeping until I watched this program, and a psychologist said our bedroom shouldn't be filled with clutter and chaos. The bed isn't for work or discussing problems or any of the things most people use it for. It's only supposed to be for sleep and sex. Once I grasped that concept, my room became like a haven. So I'm happy it makes you feel peaceful. I'm hoping it'll make you feel something else later on." Judith winked with a huge grin on her face. A smile spread across Ezra's face as well. "So are you hungry? Dinner's ready." Ezra said he was starving and Judith led him downstairs to the dining area. Again, the furniture and decorations transported him to another place. Judith described the beautifully decorated table as a rustic, Tuscan farmhouse style. Her Tuscan sunflower dinner and dessert plates enhanced the dark wood of the table and chairs. The glasses, candles, and other little touches Judith added gave everything a romantic look and feel. "This is really lovely, baby doll. Thank you for welcoming me to your home." He smiled and kissed her hand. "So what's on the menu?" "Well, for appetizers we have." "Ooh, appetizers, huh? Wow, that's fancy. I'm excited." Judith returned from the kitchen with 2 chilled martini glasses of the most delicious crab salad he'd ever tasted. Next on the menu were perfectly cooked and seasoned ribeye steaks, creamy baked potatoes, and a deliciously spiced medley of garden vegetables. "This was phenomenal, baby doll. And you really cooked all of this?" "Yes," she blushed. See, you've been holding out on me. I had no idea you could do all of this. I've never heard you mention cooking as being something you enjoy. And you're obviously incredibly skilled at it. So have you ever thought of making a career of it?" Judith didn't answer right away. She was debating whether to share one of her dreams with him or not. It was something she hadn't told anyone except Lucian, but even she didn't know Judith was making plans to see it realized. "What's wrong?" Ezra asked, noticing her reluctance to speak. It's just that I've never shared this with anyone before and I wouldn't want you to laugh. My dream probably sounds far-fetched, but it's... Now I know you know better than that, Judith." "Oh no," she thought. The only time Ezra called her Judith was when he introduced her or when she annoyed or upset him. "I'm sorry, you're right. I'm kind of insecure about it, that's all. But what I've dreamt about since I was like 18 years old is opening my own bed and breakfast inn. It would be small, like 5 rooms, and I'd want to cater to couples on their honeymoon or celebrating their anniversary or just in love, you know. Each room would have a theme, all romantic, but different. I would want them to be really dreamy and inviting and blissful." Ezra put his elbows on the table and his face in his hands as he listened intently to Judith. Her eyes danced when she spoke and she was so animated, talking with her hands and body. It was the first time he'd seen that kind of passion from her regarding a career. Ezra knew Judith was envisioning the inn and the individual rooms as she described them to him, and he saw pure joy on her face. It was exciting, it was sexy, and he wanted to see her dream come true. "I've looked at different locations throughout the Bay Area, but I picture the inn being in a place like Monterey or Carmel, close to the water, you know. I want the couples to be able to look out their windows and see something picturesque and awe-inspired. And I want the inn to be secluded enough to feel private and intimate but also close enough to go to things like the farmers markets and festivals. I would hire a chef and staff and everything, but at least one night during my guest stay I would want to cook the meal myself and actually sit and talk and get to know them a bit. I'd want to hear their love stories or about their wedding, how they met, all that sappy stuff. I guess more than anything I would like to have a small part in the happiest time of people's lives, Judith said, wiping a tear from her eye. I know that's mushy, huh? Nobody would expect me of all people to even care about that kind of stuff. But I do. Oh, and I would make sure each of them left with one of these, she said, removing the lid from one of her trays. These are my signature cupcakes. I can do all types of flavors, but my favorites are these triple chocolate ones here, she pointed, the strawberry passion, and the better than sex one, which is basically a yellow cake with pineapples and cream cheese and stuff. Which one do you want to try? I want to try them all, but I'll go with the better than sex one first. Ezra took the fork Judith gave him and he tasted several bites of each. He returned to his first choice and devoured it. So how much do you need? Judith frowned. To get this inn off the ground. How much do you need? I can get some money men together to invest and you know I'm definitely in. A sweet smile spread across Judith's lips. Oh, thank you, Big Bear. That's so sweet. But this is one of those things I really want to do on my own. I've got money saved and baby doll, what do I look like investing in other people's dreams and not supporting my own woman? I believe in you wholeheartedly, 110%. I saw the passion and the love you have for this inn in the way you told me about it. How could I not help you make your dream a reality? What? Ezra asked, in response to the devilish little grin on Judith's face. I love you for that, baby. I really do. And I think, she said, removing her dress, it's high time I showed you. He almost passed out when Judith's black dress hit the floor, revealing what seemed to be a mini dress except that it was sheer and displayed every part of her body perfectly. Ezra didn't remember or care what they were discussing. The woman he loved was offering herself to him like a gift and he wanted to unwrap it, badly. Yet, something in her expression let Ezra know Judith wasn't just offering him her body. She was offering him her heart too. And he wanted that just as much. Their kiss was feverish as they yanked and ripped at each other's clothes. Ezra lifted Judith and she wrapped her legs around his waist as he carried her to her bedroom. Only they didn't quite make it all the way up the stairs. He couldn't wait another second to taste her, so with one swoop Ezra lifted Judith high on the wall until her legs rested comfortably on his shoulders. Don't come until I tell you to, he smiled, then put his peach-eating skills to excellent use. That statement alone made Judith want to explode, but the feel of his lips on her made it damn near impossible not to climax. She begged him to let her give into it, and each time he said no and resumed his work, Judith felt herself reaching a high that she never knew existed. Ezra was the man she'd been waiting for in every way. Come for me, baby doll, he moaned, and Judith immediately released the most thunderous, the most explosive, phenomenal orgasm she ever had. Now that's what I'm talking. Judith covered his mouth with hers and kissed him with a ferociousness she'd never experienced. She wanted to devour Ezra, inhale him, and he gave her the opportunity to do so. With excitement and voracity she inflicted the same sweet torture that she endured, and then some. Ezra and Judith met their match in one another and they each pushed the other to new heights of pleasure. Needing permission to climax turned them both on beyond belief. It was something Ezra had never tried before or even heard of until he overheard one of his employees talking to his wife on the phone. He told her all the naughty things he was going to do to her and that she better not come until he said so. It seemed weird at the time, kind of controlling, but it stuck with Ezra and felt natural to say to Judith at that moment. The fact that she was receptive and fully participated made it all the better. She was definitely very free and very open with her sexuality. Judith was willing to experiment and she gave as much as she received. Ezra found it refreshing to be with a woman who wasn't inhibited and was able to trust and completely give into the moment. If it felt good, she was willing to do it or have it done. By the time they finally made it to her bed, Ezra was fighting to hold on. He wanted to give into the bliss that was certain to come once he did. With the condom securely in place, Judith straddled Ezra, then rode him until she was close to climaxing again herself. Come with me, Big Bear, she whispered, and felt him unload something so strong that she thought her head would blow off. Judith didn't care, though. Her own orgasm felt so good that it would have been worth it. She lost count of how many she had at that point and was amazed by the fact that her orgasms actually got stronger the more she had. This is the most amazing shit I've ever been through in my life, Judith panted as she lay spent on top of Ezra. He engulfed her in his arms and she fell asleep in that position without a care in the world. 3 hours later, at around midnight, Judith and Ezra awoke. They showered together and took pleasure in admiring and washing each other's body. I was wondering where that was, Ezra said when he came into the kitchen and just his pants and found Judith making grilled cheese sandwiches in his dress shirt. That's sexy as hell, he smiled, planting kisses on the nape of her neck. He wrapped his arms around Judith's waist and inhaled the scent of the Japanese cherry blossoms lotion she put on her skin. Ezra moaned. He let go of her long enough for them to eat the sandwiches and share a bowl of strawberries. They smiled at each other the entire time. You really surprised me tonight, baby doll. Why, I told you I was a freak. I'm not afraid to try anything once, and I don't only mean that, although it was fucking amazing. Ezra exclaimed. I'm sorry. I just don't know how else to express myself when it comes to how extraordinary it was to be with you. You don't have to apologize, Ezra, Judith giggled. Besides, you said much worse on the stairwell. And it turned me on like a light. She laughed at seeing him look bashful. I guess outside of pillow talk I think a man should be respectful in the way he speaks to his woman. As crazy as my mother is, I've never heard my dad raise his voice or curse at her. Regardless of what might be going on in his mind, he's never disrespected her. I admire that and I've patterned my behavior to be the same. I'll always give you the respect you deserve, baby doll. Judith smiled as she made her way around the table to embrace him. Then she led him to the couch where they lay cuddled together watching TV. She felt so safe and protected with his massive arms wrapped around her. God damn it, she yelled, then jumped to her feet. I told this girl about showing up uninvited. Judith snapped when she heard Lucian's key turning the lock of the front door. Look, Lucian Bell, you need to go. Whoa, are you drunk? She asked, noticing her sister's unsteady stance. Happy birthday, Andre. Lucian shouted, then stumbled backwards as she raised her arms in a double-fisted toast. She laughed and soon after cried. I called to wish him a happy birthday and he sent a text telling me to go to hell. He's the meanest texting ass motherfucker, ain't he? Lucian laughed. So anyway, I went to have a drink or two in his honor. And your ass was out there driving. What's wrong with you? Get in here, Judith snapped, snatching her sister inside the house. Lucian leaned into Judith and allowed her to lead the way. Then she stopped dead in her tracks. Her mouth fell open and she stared at Ezra with eyes as big as saucers. He grabbed the faux fur throw blanket from the couch and placed it across his shoulders and bare chest. Oh my God, you really love him, don't you? Lucian cried. Okay, let's get you upstairs so you can go to sleepin'. She loves you, Ezra, Lucian said, freeing herself from Judith's grasp to face him. Mad has never ever brought a man to her house. You don't understand, Ezra. This is like her sanctuary and she's never trusted a man to let him into it, not even Sydney. Oh God, shut up, Lucian. She barely let her friends over here. This is huge. Lucian laughed. Then just as quickly, she started to cry. You're the man she was talking about when we were little girls daydreaming about our perfect mate. Don't be like Andre, okay? Don't leave her because... All right, that's enough, Judith said, snatching her sister towards the stairs. I'll be right back, Ezra. I love you, Ezra. Be good to my sister or I'll kill you. Lucian cried, stumbling up the stairs. This shirt you got on is way too big, Mad. Oh, geez, would you shut up? Judith helped Lucian get undressed and put her to bed in the guest bedroom. She kissed her cheek and rubbed her back until Lucian fell asleep. 15 minutes later, Judith rejoined Ezra on the living room couch. He asked if Lucian was okay and what she meant about Andre sending mean text messages. Judith told him the whole story. Aw man, that's cold. But I'm sure it was designed to be. What could be more hurtful than the person you love most not showing you enough respect to at least tell you something like that to your face? Ezra said, shaking his head. So what did Andre mean by saying he could never marry a woman like her? Judith uttered. Her mind instantly flashed back to that night at the play when she sent Sydney a text message. We don't know, she lied. Andre never made any contact to explain. Wow, Ezra said. Then he enveloped Judith in his arms. So is what your sister said true? You've never invited a man to your house before. No, I haven't. She had also never cooked for a man, shared her dreams or given her whole heart. Lucian was right. I do love you, Ezra. A lot. I love you too, baby doll. A whole lot, he said. Ezra lifted Judith into his arms and carried her upstairs to her bedroom. For as wild and carnal as their first experience had been, their second was sweet and gentle. Ezra took his time kissing and caressing every part of Judith and showed her once again that an orgasm was different when you truly loved the man who gave it to you. He showed her the true meaning of intimacy and she fell deeper in love that night. I love you, Judith whispered before falling asleep in his arms again. The following day, Judith received a call at 4 o'clock in the morning from Ezra inviting her to join him and Aura on one of their adventures. He told her to wear jeans, long sleeves, and tennis shoes. She didn't mind getting dirty. Judith took a quick shower, threw a few things in an overnight bag, and was ready to go when they arrived 40 minutes later. She embraced Ezra and Aura tightly, so happy to be included in something they considered special and private. Sorry about the last-minute notice, baby doll, but when we woke up Aura asked if we could invite you. I tried to tell her you're not cut out of this type of stuff. Mining in caves, riding zip lines, and eating at truck stops and stuff, Ezra teased, as he pulled his Dodge Ram out of the driveway. Judith looked at him, at Aura in the backseat, and back at Ezra. Excuse me, but I'll have you know you're talking to a woman who's gone skydiving on a dare, bungee jumping, and parasailing. You better check your motherboard, Jack. Check my motherboard. What? Ezra frowned. Aura burst out laughing and she and Judith gave each other a high five. That means get your information straight, Daddy, Aura giggled. You will be the one crying on the zip line, not us. That time Judith burst out laughing at the look on Ezra's face. He seemed to be agreeing with Aura's statement. So y'all ganging up on me, huh? I see how y'all do. That's cool, though. We'll see who's crying and who's not. The first one to shed tears buys dinner. Deal, Judith said, slapping Ezra's outstretched hand. Barbie doll, you in? He asked, looking at her through the rearview mirror. I can't, Dad. You always said not to make a bet you can't cover. I don't have any money. Judith's heart melted and tears sprang to her eyes. Ezra seemed stunned, but a huge smile spread across his face. He was touched to know his baby girl took to heart the things he told her, even in a playful situation like that one. While stopped at a red light, he removed his wallet and took out 3 $20 bills. Here you go, Barbie doll. Now you can cover the bet. Thanks, Dad. I'll use this to get my nails done because I'm not losing. Ezra looked at her and then Judith. Did I just get played? I think you did. Judith laughed and gave Aura a wink. An hour later, Ezra pulled into a truck stop he said was famous for its flapjacks. The three of them enjoyed a delicious, hearty breakfast while they talked and laughed. Once they were back on the road, Judith turned up the radio and they sang at the top of their lungs. Aura was tickled by the way Judith danced in her seat, and she did more laughing than singing. Ezra loved seeing the silly side of Judith and how well she and Aura got along. They had a bond with each other that he knew was genuine and heartfelt, and it made him love them both even more. 2 hours later, Ezra announced that they had arrived at their destination. Judith didn't look all that excited. In fact, she looked petrified. You all right, Miss Skydiver? You look a little nervous. Judith swallowed deep and peered out of the window. Yeah, I'm good, she said, unconvincingly. Where are we? It's called Cave and Mine Adventures. And don't worry, those howls you hear aren't real. They're just part of the experience. So you can pry your hands from the door handle, baby doll. You're safe, Ezra laughed before exiting the truck. Aura hopped out, then she and Ezra went to help Judith out of the truck. She tried her best to put on a brave face, but the cave didn't look sturdy and she envisioned them walking through only to have it collapse on them. Screams drew Judith's attention upward and she caught sight of someone flying by on the zipline. Oh Lord, what did I get myself into? She thought as Ezra and Aura guided her forward. This is gonna be fun. I'm so glad you're here, Maddie, Aura beamed, giving Judith's hand a squeeze. Me too, she smiled brightly. That day turned out to be one of the best of Judith's life. Despite her fear about the cave, it was a lot of fun walking through it. She especially loved the zipline and rode it 3 times. Ezra lost the bet, although he claimed it was the wind hitting his eyes that made tears fall down his face and not that he was crying. Judith and Aura knew it was the truth, but they gave him a hard time anyway, something they did throughout their adventure together. Judith loved every minute of it and considered their time together as when the three of them became a family. From that point on, they did everything together. Judith cooked dinners, attended Aura's soccer games, and helped her study for the tests that would determine her placement in 8th grade the following school year. To Prim's displeasure, the two of them were like best friends. Aura wanted to be just like Judith and often returned home wearing her perfumed lotions and clothes. That's enough, Prim snapped when Aura went into another me and Judith story. I'm tired of hearing about the great Judith. Your daddy should have sense enough not to. Aura, go get your stuff together, baby. Your dad's on his way, Prim's older sister Prissy said. Aura ran upstairs to her room. Now what's your problem, Prim? You know I don't play that daddy bashing in front of the kids, and I thought you didn't either. And what is all this about you not letting Aura spend Memorial Day weekend with Ezra? What's going on? She asked, suddenly able to see their resemblance. Prissy denied it for years, but aside from being an inch taller at 5'7" and having blue eyes instead of dark brown ones, Prim really did look like her. Humph, she grunted, wondering why she hadn't seen it before. Aura came barreling down the stairs to open the door for her dad. Prissy hugged Ezra and talked with him for a few minutes. Aura hugged her mom and aunt goodbye before leaving with her dad. So back to you, miss. What's going on? Prissy asked, as she sat beside her sister on the couch. For the last 10 years, Ezra, Prim, and Aura spent Memorial Day together. And Prim was certain Judith was to blame for why that wasn't the case this year. She looked at her sister, then burst into tears. Why does he love her? Oh, baby, come here, Prissy said, enveloping Prim in her arms. She rocked with her and said nothing while her sister sobbed. When Prim finally stopped crying, she expressed how hurt she was over Ezra getting so serious about Judith so quickly. She admitted being jealous at the Easter dinner when Mary went on and on about him calling a fashion designer just so Judith could choose what she wanted to wear. Prim especially hated watching Ezra be playful and sexy with the woman like he didn't even care that she was there. I mean, how can he come over here and make love with me and then fall in love with somebody else a few days later? That's so wrong. Okay, let's not get it twisted, Prim. Ezra didn't come over here that night with flowers declaring his undying love for you. He came to drop off Aura and you lured him in with his favorite meal and lingerie that just happened to be under your robe, Prissy said with a raised eyebrow. You said Ezra tried to stop, but you kept throwing your coochie at him until he gave in. Ugh, shut up, Prissy. I don't know why I be telling you all my damn business. Because I'm your sister and your best friend and I love you. I'm always gonna keep it 100 with you, and as much as it might irritate you, you know you need that. So be honest with yourself and don't try to flip things around. I know you're still in love with Ezra, and I honestly don't blame you. He's a good man and an incredible father. But he's not your man, Prim, and you need to accept that and move on with your life. Go on a date, meet some people, and enjoy yourself. But what you not gonna do is resort to playing games by trying to keep Aura away from Ezra. He's her father and she needs him as much as she needs you. Mama used to do that stupid shit and eventually Daddy got sick of it. Remember going through our teens when we needed him the most and not having him around because Mama stopped it. Remember how much we hated her for it? Prissy asked, nudging her sister's arm. That's why we vowed not to ever do that mess to our own kids, because that's who gets hurt. Mama was so focused on punishing Daddy for breaking her heart that she never thought about the damage it was doing to us not having him in our lives. So don't you turn around and do that same shit, you hear me? Ezra doesn't deserve it, and neither does Aura. Find another way to deal with your hurt over the fact that he's chosen someone else to love. I know you're right. It's just hard, you know. Yeah, I know. But you need to find a way to move on. Don't be in here acting crazy like your mama. Girl, stop it, Prim laughed. You know Mama ain't crazy. Prim, please. I love the woman, but you and I both know she ain't playing with the full deck. Just look at the evidence. You know something's gotta be wrong with you if you really thought it was a good idea to name your children Prissy, Prim, and Proper. You know Mama jacked us up with these stupid-ass names. They both laughed before embracing each other again. You're gonna be alright, baby sis. I love you. I love you too, Prissy Poodle. Ugh, quit calling me that mess. Prissy fussed, then grabbed her purse to leave. And don't be sitting in this house moping. Get out and do something, or at the very least go to a dating site and try to find you somebody. Prim waved off the idea, but after an hour of sitting on her couch obsessing about Judith, she decided to give the whole online dating a try. What was the worst that could happen?